Yeah, so I know I'm really tough to see right now, but I'm walking around and probably some background noise too. So I just got back from church camp, and truth of the matter is, my Fitbit steps tell me I wasn't as active today as I was yesterday when I was at camp. And so I felt like I needed some time, but it also took a minute to jump into God's Word, and I've been reading through the Gospel of Matthew, and I get to Matthew 16. There's a couple things going on in these two chapters, 15 and 16. One is Jesus feeds the 4,000. He previously fed the 5,000, but then he feeds the 4,000. And then as they're going, the disciples start kind of like, I guess mildly freaking out, or just, I don't know if they were arguing, bickering, something, over the fact that they'd forgotten to bring bread with them on the trip. And Jesus is just like, did you guys see that back there? Because it was like something wasn't connecting here. He just fed 4,000 or 5,000 and 4,000 people on two different occasions. And these guys are sitting over here arguing about, well, we didn't bring bread. Like Jesus couldn't just like provide it, you know? Like, I think at this moment, Jesus is just like, hey guys, I think you probably ought to know by now that your lack of physical bread isn't your least concern, or isn't your greatest concern whenever I'm with you. Because like, I make bread out of stuff, you know? But in the midst of this dialogue, so he tells them, hey, listen guys, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, and the scribes, and the chief priest. Essentially says, beware the leaven of the leaders of Israel. And it's kind of a weird thing to say, and they didn't quite get it. They were like, okay, well, we didn't bring any bread, so he must be talking about the fact that we forgot to bring bread. And of course, Jesus wasn't talking about that at all. I'm kind of in an awkward spot over here. I stepped off the sidewalk doesn't exist where I am over here. It's a new sidewalk they're building. But he says, beware of the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees. And the disciples are like, what is he talking about? And they keep arguing about, well, we don't have any bread. And then he says again, guys, if you do not get it, and he repeats kind of what I just said, did you not, like, I fed 5,000 from 5 loaves, and there were 12 baskets left over, one for each disciple, by the way. I fed 4,000 from 5 loaves and fish, 4 loaves and 7 loaves and fish. And he said, and then there were 7 baskets left over, enough to feed everyone, and then some. And then it clicks. Oh, okay, that clicks for them. He's not talking about bread. He's talking about the teachings of the scribes and the Pharisees. So then what really kind of blows my mind is like right after this happens is this whole discourse. So he's telling them, hey, I'm going to die and rise again. And then Peter is like, he takes Jesus aside. Peter takes Jesus aside, and he's like, yeah, hey, Jesus, like, surely that's not going to happen, right? Far be it from you that you would die, that you would suffer at the hands of the elders and the chief priests, and that you would rise from the dead 3 days later. Far be it from you. And Jesus looks straight at Peter and says, hey man, Peter, get behind me, Satan, because you are not about my work, you're about your work. So that's kind of a crazy statement right there, right? Because Peter is sitting here, he believes in Jesus as the Messiah, proclaims Jesus as the Messiah even. And then here Jesus is sitting here saying, hey, you are Satan. You need to get behind me, because you're not about my kingdom. You're still about your own kingdom. And do you catch the significance of what Jesus says in that instant, or in that instance? It's very significant, because what he's saying to Peter is, well, look, Peter is a person. Peter was fired up about Jesus. Peter was a follower of Jesus. Peter believed that Jesus was the Messiah, 100% believed it. So what's the deal? Peter couldn't get over the fact that the teaching of his culture essentially said that the Messiah was going to look different than what Jesus looked like. That the Messiah was going to be a conquering king rather than a king who would establish a kingdom in the hearts of men for the nations. But this conquering king would restore the nation, the nation of Israel, as they expected that he would. He was going to be the king on the throne of David who restored the kingdom, ran out the Romans, all those things. And that's not what Jesus showed up to do. And so when Jesus, says, well, I'm the Messiah, but I'm going to suffer and die, Peter couldn't grasp that in his head, because to him, Jesus had to be the conquering king who restored the kingdom to Israel. And Jesus says, I'm taking this thing bigger than this Israel that you have in your mind, and you don't understand what I'm doing. And so he tells Peter, hey, listen, you need to get behind me instead of trying to get in front of me. You catch what's going on there? He just said, beware of the leaven of the scribes and the Pharisees and the teachers of the land. Okay? Beware the teachings of the leaders of your nation, of your religion, because they don't get me. They have the wrong view of me. And Peter was basing his beliefs still on the teachings of the leaders of Israel, and they had it wrong. And Jesus says to him essentially, hey, listen, Peter, you're not about my kingdom. You're still about your own kingdom. And if you want to be my disciple, then you need to get behind me. You need to be about my kingdom. It's not about what the world says about me. It's not about what you think about me. It's about what I say about me. And listen, a whole bunch of people in the world today are still doing the exact same thing Peter did. They're trying to put Jesus into a box of the popular teachers of our day, or of the universities, or of pop culture. And Jesus won't have anything of that. You know what he says to us? He looks at us and says, get behind me, Satan. You're not doing my will. You're about your own will. If you want to be my follower, you got to get behind me. You got to believe what I say about me. You got to follow my teachings and not what the world teaches about me. You have to fall in line with my teachings and not the popular teachings of the world. If you want to be my disciple, you have to pick up your cross and follow me. You have to sacrifice your views about me, what you think the Messiah is going to be like, what you think the kingdom is supposed to be like, and come on board with what I'm telling you the Messiah is going to be like, and what the kingdom is going to be like. Because Jesus says, because I'm him. You're not going to get any closer than this. And so I think the same call extends to every single one of us. Jesus has a plan that we would follow him, that he's going to show us who he is, but we have to come on his terms. We cannot shove him into our box and expect him to come to us on our terms. We have to come and follow him on his terms, and that's what he expects. So just thinking about that, and thought it was worthy of sharing, even though it's kind of dark. I still think this is some worthy content. I'll try to lighten this video up before I post it to YouTube. But God bless, and I hope God uses this short little blurb to push you closer to his son Jesus.